6:7. Let's read it aloud together. You will reap exactly what you plant. Now, there's a phrase in Genesis over and over that's used in its phrase, after its own kind. And that phrase is talking about here that we always reap the same thing that we sow. Now, again, listen, this works both ways. It can either work for you or it can work against you. Whatever I dish out is what I'm going to get back in life. And the Bible talks about this a lot. In fact, let me just show you some verses on the screen here. Look at these. Here's some negative examples. Job 4:8. People who plant trouble harvest it. Look at the next one. Proverbs 22, verse 8. Whoever sows sin reaps weeds. Proverbs 22:8 in the New Living Translation says, those who plant seeds of injustice will harvest disaster. Hosea 10:13, you planted wickedness and now you reap evil. Matthew 7:2, whatever measure you use to judge others will be used to measure how you are judged. What you sow, you're going to reap. Now let me show you some positive examples. Proverbs 11:18, the one who sows righteousness will reap a sure reward. Hosea 10:12, plant good seeds of righteousness and you'll harvest a crop of my love. James 3:18, peacemakers plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of goodness. Are you getting the idea that this is not some minor message of the Bible? The laws of the harvest. You will reap what you sow with your children, with your wife, with your business. It'll either work for you or it'll work against you. You sow anger, guess what you're going to get? Angry kids. You sow patience, guess what you're going to get? Patient kids. You will reap what you sow, and you get exactly what you put out. I cannot sow irresponsibility and reap success. I cannot sow laziness and reap reward. I cannot sow stinginess and reap a blessing. Now, the Bible is full of examples of this, both negative and positive. Jacob, his name's supplanter, meant he was going to cheat people. And Jacob cheated his brother and cheated his dad. So you know what happened? His father-in-law cheated him. He reaped what he sowed. Haman was a man who reaped bitterness, and he built these gallows to kill a guy named Mordecai. He ended up being hung on his own gallows. This happens all the time. Galatians 6, 7, and 8. I love this in the Message. It says this: the person who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others, and ignoring God, harvests a crop of weeds. That's all he'll have to show for his life. But here's the good news. The one who plants in response to God, letting God's Spirit do the growth work in him, harvests a crop of real life, eternal life. You're going to harvest whatever you plant. Okay, everything starts as seed. Nothing happens till the seed's planted. Whatever I have, when I have a need, I plant a seed, and whatever I plant is what I'm going to reap. Number 5, here's a big one. I'm not the only sower. You're not the only planter in the universe. Other people are planting all around you. And by the way, you are reaping both good and bad from those who went before you. Some of you grew up, sadly, and I'm sorry for this, in families with a history of abuse and a history of alcohol, maybe a history of divorce. And you have to decide the chain breaks now. I can't control the past, but I'm going to break the chain now. I talked to a guy in college one time. It was a good friend of mine named Rick. He said, 4 generations of my family all got divorced. He said, I am bound and determined that is not going to happen in my life. The chain breaks now. You are harvesting both good and bad from your past, because you're not the only person who's sown. Everything you do has consequences. And by the way, your life is going to affect future generations. You need to take it very, very seriously. You know, a couple years ago, PBS was doing a series of family histories of famous Americans. They had Oprah Winfrey and just a bunch of different people. And the guy who did it came and said, we want to do a pastor. We want to do you. I said, fine. So they actually took a swab of DNA out of my mouth, and they went back and traced my family tree back 1,000 years. I'm a king, and you should all bow down to me. I'm just teasing. Just teasing. But they found all kinds of interesting things and did a TV special on my family tree. One of the things I discovered is the amount of godly ancestors I had in my family. I am reaping the benefit and blessings from grandparents and great-grandparents who are praying for their great-grandchildren. I'm reaping that in my life because I had some people, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, who loved God and were praying for their future generations. Now, I know many of you say, well, I didn't have a family like that. I'd like to have a legacy like that. Well, you started. You started. Started with your family name. Did you determine that the future generations of your family name are going to be blessed because you're going to plant seeds of prayer and love and godliness and generosity and faith and all these other things, and the people that you come out of your family tree have a blessing and heritage. You're not the only sower. Jesus said this, John 4:38, I sent you to reap where you did not plant, and others had already done work for you, and you will now gather the harvest.